I always thought medicine was about fixing things. Maybe that's why I ended up in the ER, a place where everything is broken. Bones, hearts, sometimes the coffee machine. My name's Alex, and I'm an emergency physician at St. Agnes Hospital, somewhere in the sprawling, caffeinated chaos of Chicago. I chose this life for the adrenaline, for the sense of purpose, for the chance to be the hero in my own story. But as I sit here, watching the sun crawl up over the city, I realize I might have been wrong about what needs fixing. Not everything can be stitched up with a suture. Tonight, my shift ended with a gunshot wound, a not-so-unusual occurrence in my line of work. But this one was different, and not just because the patient was a guy I'd seen before, a repeat offender named Marcus. It's because this time, Marcus whispered something before he passed out, something that would tip my world off its axis and drag me down a path I never expected to walk. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's rewind to a week ago when I met Sophie. She was a new nurse, fresh from the University of Michigan, with auburn hair and a laugh that could make even the surliest patient smile. I've been working back-to-back shifts, running on caffeine and sarcasm, when she waltzed into the break room and caught me in the middle of what I like to call my existential microwave stare. "Is the soup winning?" she asked, nodding at the microwave. I blinked. Only by a landslide. She grinned, and for the first time in months, I remembered what it felt like to be interested in someone who wasn't a patient or a pharmaceutical rep. We started talking about work, about Chicago, about how neither of us could ever keep houseplants alive. It was easy, effortless even, and I found myself looking for her on my rounds, lingering just a little longer in the nurse's station, inventing reasons to ask her opinion on cases I'd already made up my mind about. That's when the trouble started. On Wednesday night, I got a call from the police. They'd found a body near the hospital, a young woman, dead from an overdose, but with injuries that didn't match a simple drug case. The detective in charge, a tired-looking guy named Ramirez, wanted my opinion. I told him what I thought, that the bruising on her wrists and the ligature marks suggested foul play, not just bad luck. He grunted thanks and left, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next day, Marcus showed up in the ER. He'd been shot in the leg. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but he was scared. I'd seen that look before, the kind that says, "I know something, but I'm too afraid to tell." While I stitched him up, he kept glancing at the door, as if expecting someone to burst in and finish what they'd started. I tried to reassure him. "You're safe here, Marcus. Whoever did this can't get to you." He shook his head. "You don't know, document. They can get to anyone." Before I could press him, security came to escort him for questioning, and he was gone. I chalked it up to gang stuff. Chicago has enough of that to fill a dozen ERs. But that night, I found a note in my locker. No signature, just a single line. "Ask Marcus about the girl." I stared at it, heart pounding. The girl. The overdose. Marcus. I told myself not to get involved. Doctors aren't detectives. But curiosity's a hell of a drug, and I'd always had a weakness for the stuff. Sophie noticed I was distracted. "Everything okay?" she asked as we grabbed coffee after a shift. I hesitated. Normally, I keep work and life separate, but something about her made me want to share. So I told her about the girl, about Marcus, about the note. She listened, brow furrowed, and then surprised me. "Maybe you should talk to Ramirez," she said. "Tell him about the note." I nodded, but I didn't. Instead, I started asking questions. Quietly, carefully. I talked to Marcus's nurse, found out he'd received a visitor before the police arrived. A woman, late 20s, dark hair. I asked around, checked the visitor logs. Her name was Emily Carter, but the address she'd given was fake. The next night, Sophie and I went for drinks. I told myself it was just to unwind, but I wanted to see her, to forget the mess I'd stumbled into. We laughed, we talked, and when she kissed me, I felt something shift. Maybe I could have a life outside the hospital. Maybe, with her, I could be more than just a doctor. But life, like Chicago weather, has a way of changing fast. 2 days later, Marcus came back. This time, he was bleeding out, a gunshot wound to the chest. As I worked to save him, he grabbed my wrist, eyes wild. It's bigger than you think, Doc, he gasped. Emily, she's not who you think. Watch your back. He coded and died on the table. I called Ramirez. Told him everything. The note, Emily Carter, Marcus's last words. He listened, scribbled notes, and promised to look into it. But I could see it in his eyes. Another dead gang member, another junkie, another case that wouldn't go anywhere. That night, I found my car broken into. Nothing stolen, but the message was clear. Stay out of it. Sophie worried. Maybe you should leave it alone, she said. This isn't your fight. But it was. Or at least, it felt like it was now. Someone had used my hospital, my ER, as a staging ground for something ugly. I couldn't let it go. I started digging. Used old med school contacts, friends in the police department. The girl who died had been part of a clinical trial run by a shady pharma company with ties to the city's underbelly. Emily Carter worked for them. Or at least, that's what the rumor mill said. The more I learned, the more it looked like Marcus was caught up in something way out of his league. Sophie tried to pull me back. You're not invincible, Alex. You can't save everyone. But I'd already crossed the line. One night, as I left the hospital, Emily was waiting for me in the parking lot. You're poking your nose where it doesn't belong, Dr. Harper, she said, voice cold. I try to keep my cool. I just want to know what happened to that girl. To Marcus. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Curiosity kills more than cats in this city. Before I could respond, she slipped into a waiting car and was gone. I debated going to Ramirez again, but something told me he was in on it. Or at least that he wouldn't help. So I did the only thing I could think of. I went to the press. An old college friend worked at the Tribune. I gave him everything. Names, dates, connections. He promised to look into it. The fallout came fast. The hospital was investigated. The trial was shut down. Emily disappeared. But nothing stuck. No one was arrested. The girl's death was ruled accidental. Marcus's file closed. Life as it does moved on. But I couldn't. Sophie and I grew distant. She wanted normalcy, safety. I wanted answers. Finally, she gave me an ultimatum. I care about you, Alex. But I can't watch you destroy yourself over this. We ended things amicably. As amicable as heartbreak can be, anyway. Tonight, I sit in the hospital cafeteria, watching the city wake up. My shift starts in an hour. I could walk away, transfer to a clinic in the suburbs, start over, pretend none of this happened. Or I could stay, keep fighting a battle I'm not sure I can win. The choice is mine. For the first time, I realize I'm the one who needs fixing. And the stitches? They'll have to wait.